Notice to the public.
It used to be Canefield.
If you wish to address the council and you haven't done so already, please fill out the public wishing to address the council form and give it to Ms. Suzette as soon as possible, and hopefully prior to beginning of the meeting. Individuals addressing the council should be respectful of others in their choice of words and actions, and all cell phones, pagers, and electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of the meeting. I'd like to call the meeting of the Terrebonne Parish Council Wednesday, July 14th to order. And Mr. Danny Babin, if you could lead us in an invocation followed by a pledge of allegiance.
Everyone, please rise. Loving and gracious God, help us keep the common good before us. Strengthen our gifts of wisdom, courage, and respect for the views of others. Strengthen us to continue to work with our leaders, seeking an ever more just society that acts in harmony and independence with all creation. We do this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Marco, roll call.
Mr. Harding. Here. Mr. Michel. Here. Mr. Amade.
Here.
Ms. Domain. Here. Mr. Darren Gidry.
Here.
Mr. Babin.
Here.
Mr. Dirk Gidry. Here. Mr. Charles Clare. Here. Mr. Navy. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you. Approved minutes of the regular council session held on June 9th, 2021. Moved by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item, distribute minutes of the special council session held on June 21st, 2021, which has been done, and also distribute minutes of the special council meeting held on June 23rd, 2021, which has been done. Distribute minutes of the regular council session held on June 23rd, 2021, the regular council session, which has been done. The next item is approve accounts payable bill list for June 28th, 2021, July 6th, 2021, and July 12th, 2021. Moved by Mr. Dirk Gidry, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Show one abstention. Mr. John Amity. Next item, general business. Commendation recognizing the heroism of Captain Sheila Malonsa, fire equipment operator Stephen Hebert, and firefighter Hunter Hassler of the Houma Fire Department Air Base Fire Station in response to a residential mobile home fire in the Ashland North Subdivision. Mr. Danny Babin.
It's truly an honor to read this tonight, and I know you've all heard it before, but you ladies and gentlemen run into fires. Y'all don't run away from fires, and to that, y'all are our heroes, okay? I had an uncle, one of my favorite uncles was a fireman for many years, and actually Mr. Carl Harding served with him with the Houma Fire Department years ago. So we love what you guys do. We hope there's never another fire, but you know there's going to be more. So with pleasure, I read this. Whereas a hero is someone who embodies courage and an unselfish determination to selflessly assist others without regard or fear for their own lives. And whereas Terrebonne Parish is proud to acknowledge individuals who in the face of perilous conditions were willing to risk it all to protect the lives of others. And whereas on March 19th, 2021, the Houma Fire Department Air Base Firehouse was called into action to extinguish a mobile home fire in the Ashland North Subdivision and to commence with search and rescue efforts which resulted in the rescue of an unconscious female. And whereas Captain Sheila Malonsa, fire equipment operator Stephen Hebert, and firefighter Hunter Hassler are to be commended for their bravery and heroism. Now therefore be it resolved by the Terrebonne Parish Council on behalf of Parish President Gordon E. Dove and the entire parish consolidated government that Captain Sheila Malonsa, fire equipment operator Stephen Hebert, and firefighter Hunter Hassler are hereby recognized this 14th day of July 2021 for saving a life and for their heroic effort. Signed by Parish President Gordon E. Dove, signed by Council Chairman Darren Gidry, and acknowledged by this entire council. So thank you very much, and if y'all come up, we
you looking at? Trying to focus? Yeah, because I make the same face.
And you're welcome to say something if you would like to say anything, guys.
I mean, we just want to say thanks. Let's try to do our best.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Babin?
No, that's it, thank you. Cool.
Mr. Harding?
To you guys back there in the blue and the red shirts and stuff like that, coming out of the Air Base Station, I think I gave it the name, the Bat Cave, responding out there to that particular area. Of course, like Mr. Babin has stated, most oftentimes we run into fires that people are running away from, But then I think for the people of the public, there's a prayer, the fireman's prayer that actually should be read by all of the people that these gentlemen and lady actually enter these fires, and then their families that actually allow them, just as police officers, that go out into areas that actually put their lives in danger. And for me, being a retired fireman, and some of these guys, I know they're still there. I tell you what, I'm very, very proud of you and the work that you guys have been doing for the years since I've been gone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Item B, resolution approving the holding of an election in Fire Protection District Number 7 of the Parish of Terrebonne, State of Louisiana, on Saturday, November 13th, 2021, to authorize the levy of a special tax therein. So moved by Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded by Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item C, introduce an ordinance to authorize the acquisition of property, sites, and/or servitudes required for the Chackahoola-Gibson Drainage Project, Parish Project Number 16-DRA-26. Authorize the parish president to execute any and all documents necessary to acquire the sites, property, and/or servitudes for the said purpose. To authorize the parish legal staff to commence expropriation proceedings in the event the sites, property, and/or servitudes cannot be obtained conventionally, and to declare that the taking, if required, is necessary and useful for the benefits of the public, to provide for other related matters thereto, and to call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, July 28th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Move by Mr. Carl Harding, second by Mr. Dirk Guidry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item D, introduce an ordinance to authorize the acquisition of property, sites, and/or servitudes required for the D13 Retention Pond Project. Authorize the parish president to execute any and all documents necessary to acquire sites, property, and/or servitudes for the said purposes, and authorize the parish legal staff to commence expropriation proceedings in the event the sites, property, and/or servitudes cannot be obtained conventionally, and to declare that the taking, if required, is necessary and useful for the benefit of the public, to provide for other related matters thereto, and to call a public hearing on said matter Wednesday, July 28th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Moved by Mr. John Amity. Second, Mr. Danny Babin. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is introduced. Item 2, staff reports, updates on drainage, pumps, stations, generators, and other projects. Mr. Toops.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everyone got their report, and I would say that it's up to date as possible, and if anyone has any questions, I would field them at this time.
See no questions. Thanks, Mr. Toops. Item 3, public wishing to address the council. We have 2 items that have been pulled, but I'll go ahead and read them. And that would have been the discussion and possible action regarding battery-operated car and truck track, and Julie Jackson, a resident of 226 Douglas Drive, Houma, Louisiana, who wished to address the council regarding a previous study conducted on a vacant lot next to her home that is causing drainage issues. Item C would be speaker cards. We have a speaker card from Mr. Jerome Fobb.
Jerome Fobb, 105 Goday Drive in Bird. I came to address the council about severe flooding in LeConte Subdivision, which is about a quarter of a mile from South Terrebonne on the highway. We're 8 feet above sea level where we're at. And On the 8th, I had water come into my home, and for the last 3 years, it's been coming in once or twice a year. Fortunately, it hasn't come through the doorways, but it's seeping through the double plates on the walls because of the pressure coming from the water on the outside. And I've made up a map of the subdivision I'd like to give each and every one of y'all.
If you want to give it to Ms. Suzette, she'll,
It'll explain, excuse me. Let me get all this together. There's one with names on it. I'm trying to find it. Everything's color-coded where the water has been staying and flooding and passing in blue. And orange is what's the blockage in the subdivision for the past 30 years. Most ditches in the subdivision haven't been cleaned out in years. I want to say 20 years. And the main drainage along the Walker Estate property on the east side of the LeConte subdivision has only been cleaned out about 7 years ago. And what it was happened, they dug the canal, the ditch to drain all the way to by Terrebonne to the south. And the water's designed, the subdivision designed for the water to come to the Furman Street in the middle of the subdivision. Some would go to by Terrebonne, some would go to the back into the swamp towards the intercoastal. Well, we have a choke point on block 10, lot 24 on that corner. That's a 6-foot ditch, and it goes to a culvert right here on Godet Drive on block 12. On the orange where it shows that it's blocked, there's silt in there that there's only about 6 inches to 12 inches of ditch, where there used to be 3 feet deep. On the other side, the culvert is a foot out of the water when it's draining, so it can handle that flow to the back. But nobody's ever cleaned it out. They stopped at lot 24 on block 10. And what concerns me, where the water came in my house, I'm on the first block in the front of the subdivision, 8 foot above sea level. I had the small map in the back. I'm lot 8. Well, the person on Justin and LeConte Drive, the guy bought the house after the elderly couple passed away. He decides to pour another driveway next to the driveway on Justin, where you see the orange blocked off, and he doesn't put a culvert. And on each side where he had a culvert, he filled in a ditch so he could ride with his riding lawnmower. So the water can't go back towards LeConte Drive and to Furman to come back around the houses. It's coming between the houses, behind my house. And you got a foot of water or 18 inches of water where there's only a 6-inch offset from when it was turtle-backed. So I've been calling the parish for a year now about doing something about this. I've spoke with Mr. Rome. I gave him a map like this over a year ago. Nothing was done. And this is a simple fix. He handed it off to Mr. Harrington. Mr. Harrington said, "Oh, we shot transit and everything's supposed to flow to the back and all this." And I said, "Mr. Harrington, I've been living back there 50 years. And they got a man right here that's been here since he helped the subdivision open up, and he can tell you where the water should flow and not flow." So all we were asking is to get these choke points fixed up so that you don't have water at your doorstep when you're 8 feet above sea level, south of the intercoastal. And to try and clean out that back canal that drains the main subdivision that goes to the intercoastal. It's cleaned out from block 8, where that back ditch is. It's cleaned out maybe 50 yards. And then after that, it's plugged up with trees and lilies and everything else. So I've been getting all kind of crazy answers. And, I'm tired of the runaround. My house has had water in it 3 times already. Fortunately, I got my own dehumidifiers from my motorhome. I put in there, and it dries it out. But people, the ditches and all keep silting up, and it's getting worse and worse.
Mr. Trosclair?
Yeah. Okay, Jerome, you and I have talked about this several times, and I've got with drainage. We have David Rome here, and I'm gonna let David come up. He went back and we did some more shots again this week after this last rain event. And they know about the blockages in the back, and
What about the front where I live?
well,
I'm on the first block.
I'm gonna let Mr. Rome
Yeah.
explain to you what he's got.
Because the ordinance says you got to have 15-inch culverts in that subdivision. And this guy don't even have none.
And like I said,
And he plugged up the ditches.
so David, would you come up?
Thanks, Mr. Fobb.
Good evening.
Go ahead
I'm
and
David
state
Rome,
your-
Public Works Director for Terrebonne Parish. Address is 206 Government Street in Gray. Most of what Mr. Fobb said is absolutely correct, and I do not dispute any of it. LeCompte Subdivision does have a drainage problem, and it needs a lot of attention, specifically the back portion, the last block. How the drainage calculations were conducted, I don't know. My understanding is this subdivision was kind of progressively built through the years, the older part towards the front and then the newer developments towards the back. We have pulled what we could for subdivision plats on what we have servitudes on and what we don't have servitudes on. I've put together a presentation, and with me saying that there is drainage situation going on in the subdivision, I would like to address Mr. Fobb's concerns first and foremost, and then we'll briefly touch on the rest that's going on and what I'm going to recommend us do here on out. So if you look at the screen, we shot some elevations. These elevations were shot this week, so they are as current as possible. Mr. Fobb was absolutely correct. All those lots in that block between, it says Freeman on there, but I believe it's supposed to be Terrence and the Justin Street. But that block there, each one of those 6 lots were supposed to be turtle-backed to where it would flow to the front and the back. In between the lots, there's a swale ditch that, as far as we could tell from LIDAR and all, has existed for quite some time. If we can go to the next screen, I'm sorry, go back one again. If you notice, the front of the subdivision at Justin Street is at approximately a 7.42 at the corner of Justin and LeCompte, which is that ditch there, and all the way to Highway 24 is at about a 7.13. So Justin Street does flow towards Bayou Terrebonne. However, that is the only portion of that subdivision that flows through that outfall. On the other side of Justin Street, where the houses are, you will see that on the corner of LeCompte, across the street from where the 7.42 is, the ditch there, the bottom of that there's a catch basin there, is at a 5.80. The top of at Justin Street, the swale ditch, starts at a 7.29, and as it goes to the back of the subdivision, at Mr. Fobb's property line, it's a 6.35. So he is correct when he says the water in that area flows to towards his property. However, the 5.80 is lower than that 7.29. So the water does split there. And if we go to the next slide, this is what is currently occurring in the subdivision based off of the elevation shots that we did throughout that. So we did a side shot so you can see on the eastern side, the lowest arrows that are going towards Highway 24. That is the ditch between, I guess it would be where Justin Street would come out at. There is an open ditch there. It is quite deep, and that is to make the grade for the water to receive from culverts that are subsurfaced on the north side of that ditch there. Ms. Suzette, do you have a pointer that I can use? No? Okay. I'll just try to describe it. So Justin Street is the first cross street that you see. The water flows to the east. Thank you.
Can I say something? On Justin Street, where he doesn't have an arrow to LeConte Drive, that was an open ditch. And that's all clogged up now.
Let him finish, and then we can ask a question, because you can talk into the mic.
Okay, so well, I'll address that. Mr. Fobb is correct. There is no arrow there, and the reason why is that it's at a grade 0. So by calculations, there is no requirement for a culvert, because if water fell there, it's going to go to the lowest section, which is the 5.06. The only part of the water that is actually going into the swale ditch is water that is coming off of the first block lot, which this lot here. The water, as we said, is designed to come to Goday Street here, Justin Street here, and then the rest of the property flows to the swale ditch that goes towards
That's not a ditch.
the swale ditch that was designed in the subdivision. It begins actually on this lot here. From mid-block on that first block, it flows to the front ditch along the highway. The rest of the property flows to the roadside ditch along Justin. Essentially, this is another look at the same thing. And what Mr. Fobb is talking about not having a culvert, is in this area right here, and that is because there's a ridge. Justin Street was built on a natural ridge, and therefore there is no culvert that is needed, because the ditch, the elevation of the ditch would be at a 0. If we did dig a ditch there, what would happen is the water would flow towards Mr. Fobb and just continue on, especially if we put a culvert across Justin Street as he had once proposed. Because it would pull the water from the high part of the street to the lowest part, which again, that corner of Justin and LeComte Street is at a 5.8. Essentially, the only part of this subdivision that flows towards Bayou Terrebonne is the first block from Justin Street down. However, all of this water that flows to the back does go to Furman Street or Terrence Street, and crosses over into a box here that does go into this ditch and then goes to this outfall ditch here. One of the things that we discovered is we have a servitude on this portion of this ditch only. We do not have any right-of-way on this, or servitude on this subsurface culvert back here, that would allow us to put any kind of equipment in there to clean it. One of my recommendations is for us to approach the landowner on the eastern side of the property and seeing about acquiring a 50-foot servitude that would allow us to get in there and clean those ditches and clean those catch basins. Again, how that was approved, I don't know. That was, I think, subdivision guidelines and things of that nature. Mr. Fobb essentially has a house that is built on a swale ditch. It is against the property line, and if you notice, this structure here was built fairly recently. They gave the clearance for that, so the water does come through this back portion here, but however, it is choked in between these two red dots. The solution for Mr. Fobb is quite simple compared to what we have to do for the rest of the subdivision. Mr. Fobb needs to install yard drains to drain his yard to the front of, his property on Goday Street, which will go back to the elevations. The back part of his property is at 6.54, and this catch basin here is at 5.64. This one here is a 5.78. So the water will naturally flow to the front, and he has plenty of room to put up to a 6-inch pipe, although I think a 4-inch would be more than sufficient for the water that's coming off of his lot and the lot on the corner of Justin and Goday Street.
Mr. Rome, I used to own that big house.
Point of order, can Mr. Rome finish, please?
Mr., just let him finish and we'll go ahead.
Thank you. So again, just to reiterate that the solve the situation that Mr. Fobb is bringing to you is as simple as putting a yard drain to pull the water to the existing catch basins along Goday Street. As for the back part of the subdivision, again, I'll go back to my original statement of saying that there is absolutely a drainage issue. As I've said many times to many different council people, every time water has to make a turn, it has to slow down. That outfall ditch that runs through the back of the subdivision has to make 2 90-degree turns before it falls out. You have that entire subdivision draining to that outfall ditch. Well, the majority of that subdivision, about 80% of it, draining to that outfall ditch that has 2 90-degree turns. And to make matters worse, as he said, the first few hundred yards of the ditch, we have a servitude on. And then the servitude terminates at the end of that first block, the end of that first house, the last house on that street. We cannot encroach on private property. And I think what Mr. Trosclair and I spoke about is we're going to have to do what we can to acquire the property, to have the proper servitudes for the proper maintenance, and to relieve the water that is stopping. It doesn't slow down. It stops in that back corner whenever you have a rain event, and it takes its sweet time to get out. And I do not doubt that one bit. And that is the end of my presentation.
Where are the
Lights?
Oh, you got it right here. Man. You like that?
Mr. Trosclair, you still had the mic? Did you want to say something?
I got the mic. Let, Jerome, you want to come back up and speak on my mic?
We've been in there 50 years. I owned at one time all of, on the corner of Justin, lot 10, 9, and 8. I'm living on 8 now, okay, where it says JF. For 50 years, I've only had problems on my lot. That used to be my barn. Now I downsized and made it my home. That was just turtleback. There was never a ditch. It was only a 6-inch turtleback. I dug to get the water out of my property because I was flooding. That water always went around into the ditches for 40-something years. And now he's saying that they never needed a culvert there. There always was a culvert there, and the water always passed there. But there's no culvert where that orange mark is on the corner of Justin and Goday. And the culvert on LeConte going into Justin only has one culvert going, and that catch basin only has one culvert going into it. So the water can't go nowhere. It's got to go between our homes. You know, and like I said, it's always drained good. I just started having trouble 3 years ago. I'll show y'all some pictures if y'all want to pass them around. This is my end of my driveway looking to the back of the subdivision. After every hurricane, there's never been water in our ditches for an hour after a hurricane has passed. This is every time you get a 3 to 5 inch rain around the LeConte subdivision.
And I know, Mr. Fobb, I know Mr. Rome agrees with the problem in the back of the subdivision. And I think the discussion was that it's going to be a top priority moving forward to see about getting the servitude in the back.
Absolutely. I mean, that has been one of the administration's top priority is undoing the wrongs of the past. You know, and I don't doubt Mr. Forbes, claim that he's lived there for 50-something years and never had this kind of water. But we all know how much this parish has changed just in the last 10 years. I've lived here for 12 years. I can tell you how much this parish has changed in the last 12 years, that from subsidence to development to just, you know, there's more water in the intercoastal than there ever was, and I don't think there's anybody who would disagree with me on that. So there is a lot of changes that are going on, and I think what we need to do is focus on the big picture of obtaining those the right-of-ways that should have been obtained when this subdivision was first accepted, and get them the proper maintenance that's necessary. Why would you get a partial servitude on a ditch and not go all the way to the intercoastal with it? I'm sure the police jury, when that was thing, they had a good reason for it, but we live in where the Army Corps of Engineers and lawyers kind of rule what we can and cannot do. So I appreciate that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rome. We're going to have to move on. Mr. Harding, do you have something?
Yes. For the people in the public, what is shooting elevation?
I'm sorry?
For the people of the public, what is shooting elevation?
Very good question, Mr. Harding. Thank you. Shooting elevation is how many feet above sea level. So where we saw 6.53, that's plus 6 feet to whatever the Army Corps of Engineer. There's a new datum every few years for the Army Corps of Engineer that says it's sea level. So the sea level, when that subdivision was built, is not the same sea level that's there today. Actually, it's not the same sea level that it was there 5 years ago, because I think they changed it 5 years ago. So that's what a shooting elevation is.
Okay. I'm going to mention another subdivision that has a similar problem, and then we having a problem here in Terrebonne Parish, I'm finding out, because that situation that they had out there. We've had a conversation about the Lynn Street area and something similar with the people in the back, and they have
not having servitude, correct.
Okay, and then so that tells us that if these people over here in the LeCompte subdivision have that problem, and the people on Lynn Street have the problem, I think Terrebonne Parish realize that we have a problem.
I will not dispute
flooding. Okay, so we have to get that taken care of, even the small things. But then it's unfortunate that it's raining and a lot of people have the subdivision. And I'm not belittling their situation, but then we have that problem. And I think some of our lateral ditches that we actually have, I think the gentleman mentioned the fact that the ditches being actually going in and being graded out too. I'm not stating this to you. I'm actually, from this position that I'm sitting in, I'm telling the people, the public that sit up here, that represent people that in these situations that are like that we have to step our game up.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, we can't put it on any lawyer. We can't do it on this, that, and the other. I think we have to step our game up on that. So there's no good time to flood.
Never.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully we can actually, to the people and Steve's people that he have in his district and the people I have in my district, that we can rectify this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Mr. Trosclair?
David, you've already worked on getting the abstracts and trying to figure out what we can.
Now that we've discovered that that there is not an adequate servitude for most of that subdivision, I'm going to get with legal and we're going to start that process so that way we can start approaching the property owners. And I mean, I think that it would be a very fair. We did the same thing on Rouen Street not too long ago. We did not have a servitude on a major outfall ditch for an entire subdivision, and Mr. Hebert was able to get that taken care of very quickly, and we were able to do what was necessary to be done.
Okay, and one, since I've been on the council 6 years, I've come to realize that the majority, a lot of the lateral drainage outfalls in the lower side of the parish originally started as cane field drains, and a lot of it was never incorporated into the parish. I mean, we got outfalls with 30-year-old trees growing through them. Down in Montague, I know for a fact we got some down there, and we don't have servitude to get back there. So, it's not a problem yet, but eventually that's going to be a problem somewhere else.
Yes, sir.
So I think, I brought this up a couple of years ago that we need to try to get into a proactive mode where if we got to section off an area and the term I talked to Mr. Toops about it, and where we section off an area, if we have to section it off and say, okay, we're going to work on this area and we're going to get it done, and then we're going to move to the next area. I know You know, we got a lot of other things going on, and, you know, we don't have, especially in today's work environment, we short of manpower. We got a lot of equipment, but we don't have a lot of manpower to operate them, so things are getting pushed back, and we basically chasing fires at this point. And I understand that, but at the same time, we still got to stop these guys, you know, all of, you know, not only them, me too. You know, we got to stop water from getting to my house too.
Absolutely.
So, if you would, let's move on this, and if there's any revisiting that we can do to address Mr. Favre's issue, I wish we would do that.
And I would like to just publicly, you know, put it out there that anything that we can do to help Mr. Favre, because I don't want to say, look, this is your problem, you got to deal with it. I spoke with Rory's sons. If he would like our assistance or going over there to shoot the elevations of his yard, so that way he kind of knows what he has to do, where it has to go, and would even go as far as assisting with tying into those boxes to make sure that it is done properly and size in whatever size culvert is necessary. Again, I think a 4-inch pipe with maybe a 8-10-inch catch basin on either side of his house would be more than adequate to collect the water that is coming down that swale.
Yeah, I know. Naturally, one of the things that we can't legally get on private property and make improvements. We
Correct.
can't do that as a government. Correct. So I understand that, and I'm sure you know, most of the people in the parish do. But you know, there ought to be some kind of way that we can help, you know, legally help these guys to address their problems. Thank you.
I'll indulge. If we can ask a quick question, maybe. Yeah, go up to the microphone. Mr. Favre. Real quickly.
There was a ditch there for 50 years. Why can't you clean out a ditch that a landowner filled in? That the parish has. The parish is supposed to be cleaning the ditches and blowing out the culverts and making sure that the water is flowing. There were ditches for 50 years. The landowners fill in part of the ditches, 12 inches of dirt in the ditches. Why can't you go in there with a grade and just scoop it out?
And Mr. Favre, his
And
answer.
that's in the subdivision, in your street right-of-ways that the parish has right to go into.
And his answer was the catch basin at that corner is below where the culvert is on the other side. Am I right? Did I say that right? So he's saying that the catch basin that's at that corner,
Right.
he's saying the bottom of the catch basin is lower than. So he's saying you can't get it across based on the elevation shots that he showed. And I mean, that's something, you know, we can look at and see.
All right. You know, I'll wait and see, but every time a 3 or 4 inch rain comes, I'm getting water. And I'm not going to get water too much longer because I've been doing this for 2 or 3 years. And I'm trying to be nice and I'm trying to be kind and thoughtful of everybody else.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Favre.
you.
And I know we're talking about Mr. Favre, but there's actually a whole group of residents of that neighborhood that are here, and so I know they're listening very intently to your solution to the back corner of this, and to try to help reduce for the entire subdivision. And you know, so that the fact that they're here means that it's pretty serious to them. Mr. Dirk Guidry.
Yeah, Mr. Rome, did y'all get a chance to talk to the Herman Walker family about getting the right of way?
Oh, wait, hold on.
Again, we're still trying to get a handle on where we have servitude and where we don't. Mr. Abear made in the kind of concerts what Mr. Trosclair had said is we need a database. I mean, essentially, for the longest time, this parish relied on people's memories of, yeah, you had a servitude there. And you know, in the back part, they may have cleaned it out in the past because the property owner then was, you know, whoever the property owner's grandfather, and he was okay with the parish. And then, you know, as we learned on certain streets, what we were maintaining through tacit, we can no longer do because the property owner put their foot down and said, no, you know, I will not allow you on our property, and that has come to the pass. So we have taken a more conservative approach on these situations where we encounter that we don't have a servitude. And that conservative approach is either ask them for a servitude or take the necessary action to get that servitude.
Yeah, but in your belief that if you cleaned out that ditch or whatever they had right at the corner, the edge of the Herman Walker property and in the LaCourte subdivision, that it should solve a good bit of the problem in that subdivision.
It will help. The actual solution is to take that, what that subsurface, that portion of that subsurface that goes towards by Terrebonne, there's a ridge around Furman Street. Then that flows to the back of the subdivision. Okay, I don't have that marked out on the map because we want to focus on Mr. Farb's situation more than anything. But that ditch does that. Only that first block from Freeman Street goes towards Bayou Terrebonne. Everything else then goes to the back and then 90s. And that's where the problem is common. It should have never been a 90-degree. It should go straight back to the intercoastal. And what my goal is to solve that problem once and for all is not to put a Band-Aid on it, is to go to get the servitude to build a ditch that'll go all the way straight back so it doesn't have to make that turn. We'll leave the turn in there for reservoir, but not for the primary conveyance of that water. That's entirely too much water to go through that small of a ditch.
Yeah, because I mean, if you've just been having the problem for the last 3 years, there's something that's been done in the last 3 years that this problem is coming up with, you know? I mean, I'm from down Chauvin, and we always said, man, we're gonna move out of here, but we're gonna move to the highest property in Terrebonne Parish. We're moving to the LaCourte subdivision.
Mm-hmm.
And it's shocking for me to know that these people are getting that much water in their yards, because that's all we ever talked about. If you wanna move to the highest property, move to the LaCourte subdivision in Berg.
And a side note, we looked at the elevation shots from about 20 years ago, and it's about 1.25 feet lower than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, but, I mean, it looks like if you would get that right away along that Herman Walker property to the intercoastal, it looked like we solve a lot of their problems.
Yes, sir.
And maybe if Mr. Drone, y'all could get together and show him where y'all think that he should put a drainage pipe in his yard. I don't know if Mr. Drone would be willing or not, to meet with you guys and try to discuss it to see what can be done, and maybe we could all sit here and talk about it and get it done, because I know it's a beautiful subdivision and it's a clean subdivision, and we need to do what we can do for these people.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate it, Mr. Rome. Mr. Jerome, if you would get with Mr. Rome, maybe we all could stand there with the transit and try to figure out what we got going on. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Let's move on to 6:30 public hearings. Item A, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the parish of Terrebonne to rezone from R1 single-family residential district to R2 two-family residential district, 110 Banks Avenue, Lot 47, Block B, Mechanicville Subdivision, Houma, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Geraldine L. Miller, Giselda Williams, applicants. Public once. Public twice. All right, we don't have any public for this item. Motion to close by Mr. John Amity.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Motion adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. John Amity, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item B, an ordinance to amend Chapter 26 of the Parish Code of Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana, relative to utilities, service rates, and charges. Public once. Public twice. Third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion to adopt by Mr. Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item C, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 9237 to change the length of the one-way on Petrie Street. Public once. Public twice. Third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Ms. Jessica Domingue, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye. We're closing public hearing. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ms. Domingue?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since there been a controversy regarding this, I just want to remind the public that this one-way will not begin until after the first 175 feet of Peachtree Street. So the first 175 feet will be a two-way, and after that, it will be a one-way. So just wanted to clarify that for everybody. Thank you. Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Ms. Jessica Domingue, second by Mr. Danny Babin. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item D, an ordinance to rescind ordinance number 7717 and amend the parish code of Terrebonne Parish by adding to Chapter 18, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Article 4, Operations of Motor Vehicles, Division 2, Parish, and to amend Section 18-91, Item 2, to establish a 25 miles per hour speed limit along Country Drive from Nate Lane to 4408 Country Drive, and to provide for the installation of said signs. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Steve Trosclair, second to Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion to adopt, Mr. Steve Trosclair, second to Mr. Dirk Gidry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item E, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 6445 to correct typographical errors in accordance with the Terrebonne Parish Code Section 1-9, amendments to code, effect of new ordinances and amendatory language. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Steve Trosclair.
Second.
Second to Ms. Jessica Domingue. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Steve Trosclair.
Second.
Second to Ms. Jessica Domingue. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item G, an ordinance to declare as surplus 20 tax sale properties. Did I miss F? Oh, we got two typographical, sorry. Item F is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 8645 to correct topographical errors in accordance with Terrebonne Parish Code Section 1-9, amendments to the code, effective new ordinances, and amendatory language. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Steve Trosclair, second to Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion to adopt, Mr. Steve Trosclair, second to Mr. Gerald Michel. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Now we're on to item G, an ordinance to declare as surplus 20 tax sale properties adjudicated to the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and to acquire authorization to dispose of said properties in accordance with Louisiana Revised Statutes 47:2196. They include 204 Willowdale Drive, 205 Willowdale Drive, 105A Desser Street, 505 Westview Drive, 114 Lucille Court, 1504 Memory Lane, 3601 Dixie Avenue. 361. What did I say?
3601.
3601. Well, a little dyslexia there. 361 Dixie Avenue. 612 Roosevelt Street, 134 Banks Avenue, 132A Banks Avenue, 126 Roselawn Avenue, 429 Prince Collins Street, 1212 Ellender Street, 323 Roselawn Avenue, 230 Stovall Street, 404 Ashland Drive, 6595 Shrippers Row, 638 Mariah Street, 105 Edwidge Boulevard, 42904 Drive, and Bayou Little Caillou parcel number 34224. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Dirk Gidry, second, Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. We have a motion to adopt by Mr. Gerald Michel.
Chris, can y'all tell?
Wait, hold on.
Can y'all tell me where
Mr. Dirk
this,
Gidry.
parcel 34224 is located at?
It must be down in Robinson, because the description said left it sitting in bank, right there.
Oh, is this the Toops?
It's actually in the swamp. It's in
It's
the
in the
marsh.
swamp? Okay. Okay, all right, I was just wondering where it was, you know. Maybe somebody wanna buy some swamp.
Thanks, Mr. Guidry. We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Michel, seconded Mr. John Amity. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is passed. Item H, an ordinance to declare as surplus 3 tax sale properties adjudicated to the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government in which the parish has 50% interest, and to acquire authorization to dispose of said properties in accordance with Louisiana Revised Statutes 47:2196. And they include 2471 Bayou Delarge Road, 149 Octavia Street, 145 Vivian Street, public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close by Mr. Gerald Michel, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, say aye.
Third.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Gerald Michel, seconded Mr. Danny Babin. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item I, an ordinance to declare as surplus a tax sale property adjudicated to the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government located at 6920 and 6921 Driftwood, as well as 6968 Highway 56, in which the parish has 7.478 interest, 7.478% interest, and to acquire authorization to dispose of said property in accordance with Louisiana Revised Statute 47:2196. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded Mr. Steve Trosclair. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion to adopt, Mr. Steve Trosclair, seconded Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item J, an ordinance to declare as surplus a tax sale property adjudicated to Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government located at 7366 Park Avenue, in which the parish has 33.33% interest, and to acquire authorization to dispose of said property in accordance with Louisiana Revised Statute 47:2196. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close, Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Danny Babin, seconded Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item K, an ordinance to declare as surplus a tax sale property adjudicated to Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government located at 295 Stovall Street, in which the parish has 100% interest, and to acquire authorization to dispose of said property in accordance with Louisiana Revised Statute 47:2196. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close, Mr. Gerald Michel, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Gerald Michel, second Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item L, an ordinance to declare as surplus a tax sale property adjudicated to the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government located at 361 Knockan Street, in which the parish has 33.33% interest, and to acquire authorization to dispose of said property in accordance with Louisiana Revised Statute 47:2196. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close, Mr. Danny Babin. Second, Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Danny Babin. Second, Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item N, an ordinance to declare as surplus a tax sale property adjudicated to the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government located at 358 Railroad Avenue, in which the parish has 45% interest, and to acquire authorization to dispose of said property in accordance with Louisiana Revised Statute 47:2196. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Close.
Motion to close, Mr. Danny Babin. Second, Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Danny Babin. Second, Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item N, an ordinance to amend the 2021 adopted operating budget, 5-year capital outlay budget, and budgeted positions of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Houma Fire Department, $311,307. Reclass several CDBG recovery projects, $196,588. Sanitation, $10,821. Head Start Program, $159,968. Houma Fire Department, $6,647. General Fund Office of Emergency Preparedness, 2021 Cities Readiness Initiative, $14,396. And Parish-wide Recreation Operations and Maintenance, $6,464. And also to add one part-time administrative coordinator, one. Public once. Public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close, Mr. John Amity. Seconded, Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Motion adopted.
Motion to adopt, Mr. John Amity. Seconded, Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item 4, committee reports. Budget and Finance, Mr. John Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee meeting held on Monday, July 12, 2021, which calls 3 public hearings. Number 1, to revoke ordinance number 9115, which was signed in error as a duplicate to ordinance number 9106, and to reissue declaration by the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government of its intent to acquire full ownership of a tract of land bearing Terrebonne Parish parcel ID number 41876, with an owner of record, E.M. Glenn Incorporated, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, July 28, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Number 2 is to amend the 2021 adopted operating budget, 5-year capital outlay budget, and budgeted positions of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. The 11B Retention Pond Property in North Yard Extension, $1 million. Terrebonne Homeless Shelter, $82,650. Sanitation, $316,181. Head Start Program, $51,165. Skate Park, $40,000. Head Start Program, $203,405. Housing and Human Services, $6,587. Delete 1 Admin Coordinator 1, add 1 Program Specialist. Juvenile Detention, $0. Add 2 part-time LPNs, grade 206. Delete 2 part-time LPNs, grade 107. Marshal's Office, $0. Add 1 Office Manager. Delete 1 Chief Deputy. CSBG Program, $0. Add 1 Human Development Admin, grade 210. Delete 1 Human Development Admin, grade 211. Add 1 Admin Coordinator 1. Transit, $0. Add 1 Admin Tech 2, grade 106. Delete 1 Admin Tech 2, grade 102. Parish-wide Recreation, $0. Add 1 part-time senior groundsman and call a public hearing on said matter Wednesday, July 28, 2021 at 6:30 p.m.
Motion by Mr. John Amity. Seconded by Mr. Danny Babin.
Wait, guys, I have one more.
You have one more?
And then the third is to amend the 2021 adopted operating budget, 5-year capital outlay budget, and budgeted positions of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. American Rescue Plan, $22,401,879, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, July 28, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. That's all 3. Thank you.
Okay. We have amended motion, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item B, Public Service Committee, Mr. Dirk Guidry.
I'll make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Public Services Committee meeting held on Monday, July 12, 2021, which calls 3 public hearings. 1, to authorize the acquisition of property, sites, and/or servitudes required for the 11B Forced Drainage Project, Parish Project number 01-DRA-40, to authorize the parish president to execute any and all documents necessary to acquire sites, property, and/or servitudes for the said purposes. To authorize the parish legal staff to commence expropriation proceedings in the event that the sites, property, and/or servitudes cannot be obtained conventionally. To declare that the taking, if required, is necessary and useful for the benefit of the public. To provide for other matters relative thereto and to call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, July 28, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Item 2, to amend section 22-227 of the Terrebonne Parish Code of Ordinance to extend a no-wake zone in by Terrebonne in accordance with Terrebonne Parish Code section 1-9 amendments to code. Effect of new ordinance, amendatory language, and call a public hearing on said matter on July 28, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. And item 3, to amend sections 18-291 and sections 18-286 of the Terrebonne Parish Code to provide pricing for network-based parking services in accordance with Terrebonne Parish Code section 2-103 and calling public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 25th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m.
Motion, Mr. Dirk Gidry, second, Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Community Development and Planning Committee, Mr. Danny Babin.
Yes, I'll make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Community Development and Planning Committee meeting held on Monday, July 12, 2021, which calls for 12 condemnation hearings and 1 public hearing. Calling 12 condemnation hearings on the following residential structures and mobile home structures on Monday, July 26, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. And they are 1, 8965 Grand Kaya Road, owned by Ramsey Todd Billiot. 2, 308 Marla Street, Houma, Louisiana, owned by Gretchen Lore Marlborough. 3, 108 Smith Lane, Houma, Louisiana, owned by the estate of Jessie Mae Jones. 4, 102 Effie Street, Chauvin, Louisiana, owned by Abigail Land Holdings, LLC. 5, 1205 Miles Street, Houma, Louisiana, owned by Claude Rita Bergeron. 6, 1115 Clay Street, Houma, Louisiana, owned by Genevieve Smith Spencer, Rosa Lee Spencer, Harris, Lily Mae Spencer Celestine, Joe Spencer, Elijah Spencer Jr., Shirley Mae Spencer, Carol Spencer Theodore, Rachel Spencer Willis, Shannon L. Spencer, Brenda Joyce Spencer, and Shirley S. Nero. 7, 124 South Louisiana Avenue, Montague, Louisiana, owned by Leroy J. Charpentier and Lloyd P. Charpentier. 8, 218 Nate Lane, Berg, Louisiana, owned by Ricky Anthony Jeffrey. 9, 7742 Shrimpers Row, Dulac, Louisiana, owned by Dean F. Falgu. 10, 118 Vera Street, Houma, Louisiana, owned by Cynthia Winfield Pellegrin. 11, 1188 Highway 665, Montague, Louisiana, owned by Francis James Nakan Jr. And 12, 414 Louise Street, Houma, Louisiana, owned by Lily Carter Mitchell. And to adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the parish of Terrebonne so as to rezone from open land to C3 neighborhood commercial districts 807, 815, 831, 901, 907 East Street, 108 and 109 Breeze Drive, 108 and 109 Fleur de Lis Drive, Houma, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana, Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government applicant, and calling a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, August 25th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m.
Motion by Danny Babin, seconded by Dirk Gidry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5, notice of meetings. Approve council staff's attendance to the Organization of Parish Administrative Officials Conference, which will be held July 28th through the 30th at 2021 in Marksville, Louisiana.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Gerald Michel, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It has been approved. Item 6, appointment to various boards, committees, and commissions. Item A, Terrebonne Parish Tree Board, 1 vacancy. Mr. Mike Nettie submits an application and resume for consideration.
Open, close, and appoint.
Motion to open, close, and appoint by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Gerald Michel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item B, Houma Terrebonne Public Finance Authority, 1 expired term. Mr. Michael Blanchard submits an application and resume for consideration.
Second.
Motion to open, close, and appoint Mr. Blanchard by Mr. Dirk Gidry, seconded by John Amity. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Mr. Blanchard's been appointed. Item C, 911 Communications District, 1 vacancy representing the Houma Police Department. Chief Dana Coleman nominates Sergeant Neil Abbott as the Houma Police Department representative.
Open, close, and appoint.
Motion to open, close, and appoint by Mr. Danny Babin.
Second.
Second, Mr. John Amity. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item D, South Central Louisiana Human Services, 1 vacancy representing the medical field, Mdrn, or Coroner's Office, the judicial system, or law enforcement, and Ms. Becky Hensey submits an application and resume for consideration.
Open, close, and appoint.
Motion to open, close, and appoint Mr. Danny Babin, seconded Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item 7, vacancies to various boards, committees, and commissions. The Fire Protection District Number 5, 1 unexpired term. Veterans Memorial District, 1 unexpired term due to a resignation. Houma Terrebonne Regional Planning Commission, 1 vacancy due to a resignation. 1 expired, the Recreation District 3A, 1 expired term and 1 unexpired term due to a resignation. And Recreation District Number 6, 1 expiring term. Hospital Service District Number 1, 2 expiring terms representing a civic organization and the South Louisiana chapter of CPAs. Item 8, announcements. Parish President. Anything, Mr. Toops? Item B, council members. Any announcements? Mr. Harding.
Yes, that's going to be a District 2 Town Hall meeting Thursday, July 15, 2021, from the hours of 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. At the Dooms Auditorium at 301 West Tunnel Boulevard. Representatives from government, law enforcement, the courts, and concerned citizens. And it's open to the public, and appreciate everyone attending this to come out and see what we need from the public and the public need from us. Thank you.
Mr. Jeremy Show.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, by the grace of God, we have been given a vaccination to stop people, or at least greatly reduce the possibility of getting COVID-19. And now there's a new variant that is affecting the country, possibly even more than the other one, that is still covered under this vaccine. Please take advantage of this technology, take advantage of this research, and protect yourself and the people in which you come into contact. Thank you very much.
And have a chance at $1 million. This is Steve Trosclair.
Yes, as we showed tonight, we gave a very nice commendation and accolades to 3 of our Houma Fire Department firemen. Once again, I want to reiterate, like I do every week, for everyone to definitely keep our firefighters, law enforcement, first responders, military, active, and veterans in your thoughts and prayers daily. Thank you.
Monthly Engineers Report, T. Baker Smith, Milford and Associates Incorporated, as per Mr. John Amity, second, and Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Motion adjourned.
Motion adjourned, Mr. John Amity, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.